We are on section 7.1%. Okay, we know that percent means hundredths. Okay, or per 100. Or per 100. And we know that 1% as a fraction is 1 over 100. Okay? Let's write a couple rules of converting from percents. Okay? So if I'm going to change a percent to a decimal, we're going to drop the percent sign and move. Y'all remember what we did with that decimal? And move the decimal 2 places left. Drop the percent sign, move the decimal place 2 places to the left. If we are going to convert a percent to a fraction, we're going to drop the percent sign. And we're going to write a fraction with the percent in the numerator and 100 in the denominator. Then simplify or reduce. Okay? So example 1, we're just going to do that. We're going to switch back and forth between a couple. We have convert each of 62.5%, 3%, and 150% to a decimal, and B, a fraction. Okay? So we'll start with, oh, yeah, there we go. We'll start with 62.5%. Okay, so A, we want to convert that to a decimal. So I'm going to drop the percent sign. Let me do this. I'm just going to drop the percent sign. So that's going to give me 62.5. Then I'm going to take that decimal and I'm going to move it 2 places to the left, 1, 2. So I will get 0.625. There's A. B says for 62.5% that we want to turn that into a fraction. Okay, well, I'm going to take that percent sign off again. I'm going to write 62.5, and this time I'm going to put it over 100. Now, you can't have a decimal inside a fraction. That's improper, guys. Okay? It's not proper notation. So what we need to do is we really need to get rid of that decimal. Well, quick and dirty way to do that is I'm going to just move that decimal, and I'm going to make that 625. And when I do that, then I just add a 0 onto the 100 and make it 1,000. Okay? Guys, what you really did is you multiplied the numerator times 10 and the denominator times 10. So you really didn't change it at all. You just multiplied by 1 because 10 over 10 is 1. But that does give you 625 over 1,000. Now we're ready to reduce that or simplify that. If you do have your, I will show you a cool little trick on your multi-view. If you have the multi-view calculator and it has the wider screen, and yes, this is what I let you borrow when you take a test, you will notice that there's this little button right here, N over D, and it's saying numerator over denominator. It will make a stackable fraction, so I can put 625 over 1,000, and that will give me 5 over 8. Okay, so it nicely does that, so we know our answer is 5 over 8. If we didn't know that and we didn't have that calculator, I could always go, okay, well, I can reduce that myself. I know what's going to go into 625 and 1,000. No, that 5 has to, right? Because it ends in 5 and 0. So 5's going to go in there. 5 goes into 625 125 times. And it goes into 1,200 times. Okay, both of those will still reduce by 5. So 5 will go into 125 25 times. And 5 will go into 200, what is that, 40 times? And then 25 over 40. Of course, 5 goes into both of those, and that does give me my 5 over 8. Okay? So if you don't have the multi-view that has the stackable fraction on it, you can still do it. No worries. Okay, let's do A for 3% now. A on 3%. Okay, so I'm making it a decimal first. So that just gives me 3. Guys, if there is no decimal present, it's assumed to be after that last digit. So that last digit is 3. So I make my decimal there, and then I move it 2 places to the left. 1, 2. I'm going to add that 0 in there. So 3% is really 0.03. Okay. I'm going to write B beside it because there's not much to that fraction. If I take 3%, I know that's going to be 3 over 100. And guys, you can't do anything to that. It doesn't get any smaller. Okay, last one is 150%. Okay, 150%. If I drop that percent sign, that gives me 150. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Gives me 150. I put my decimal behind that 0. Now I'm going to move my decimal 2 places to the left. 1, 2. And that will give me 1.5 for my decimal. Then on B, if I take 150%, guys, it's over 100%, so the solution that you get will be over 1. Okay, this is really 150 over 100. Well, I know 10 goes into both of those because it ends in 0. Okay, so if I divide 10 into 150, that gives me 15. 10 into 100 is 10. 5 will go into both 15 and 10. That will give me 3 over 2. Okay? And that is example 1. Let's talk about converting to percents. So going the other way. to change a decimal to a percent, move the decimal point two places to the right, and add a percent sign. Okay. Then, to change a fraction to a percent, first, change the fraction to a decimal. Then change the decimal to a percent. Okay? So let's look at example 2. We have convert each to a percent. Okay, so I have 0.974. Okay, so it tells me to change a decimal to a percent, move the decimal point 2 places to the right. So I'm going to take that decimal point and I'm going to go 1, 2, 2 places to the right. And that will give me 97.4%. Okay, that was pretty easy. B, I have 0.04. I'm going to take that decimal, I'm going to move it 2 places to the right. 1, 2. I didn't change colors, I'm sorry. That's going to give me 4%. Okay. C, I have 5/16. Okay, so I need to convert that 5/16 into a decimal first. You guys know that's a simple division. Okay, so you go over here to your calculator and I'm going to, where's the AC button? I hate it when we do this. Okay, so I've got 5 divided by 16, which is going to give me 0.3125. Let me see if I can get that screen to split now, if it'll do it. Yep, okay. So that's going to give me 0.3125. Now I'm ready to take that decimal, move it 2 places to the right. 1, 2. And that's going to give me 31.25%. Okay. And D. Last one is D, last one on this page. We have 7/9. And it equals, we got to find out what that equals first. We need to convert that to a decimal. So I've got 7 divided by 9. And that pretty much gives me 0.7 repeating, guys. Okay, so I've got 0.777 repeating. And that will equal 77.7 repeating percent, because we go 1, 2. That little bar over the top means it's repeating. And 7 keeps repeating over and over. Okay? All right, let's do a word problem. Let's apply these. I want to go to full screen. It'll pop back over. Okay, we ready? Example 3. According to Google, "13.2% of registered nurses have at least a master's degree. If 430 nurses attend a professional conference, how many would be likely to have at least a master's degree?" Okay, so according to Google, 13.2% of registered nurses have at least a master's degree. If 430 nurses attend a professional conference, how many would be likely to have at least a master's degree? Okay, so let's talk about what we know. What's the number of nurses that are present at the conference? 430 nurses, okay. And what do we know about those 430 nurses? Or what should we know about it? What are they predicting? What are they saying? At least 13.2% of those nurses, of the 430, have a master's degree. So at least 13.2% of 430 have a master's. Okay, guys, so here's how you've turned everything that's verbal into an actual math statement, okay? So 13.2% of 430 have a master's degree. So we really need to find out how many 13.2% of 430 is, right? That's what we're looking for. Guys, when we use the word of in math, it often means multiply, okay? We used to teach you that a long time ago. We'd go, okay, start picking out the word like is equals, of is multiply, sum or total is adding, okay? Of means multiply, per means divide. You learn to pick those things out. Now, they don't teach that real often anymore, especially in Texas since we went to STAR. But what this is saying is I'm saying 13.2% times 430 will give me the number that have masters. Okay? Well, I can't type in my calculator, not this one anyway, 13.2% times 430. So I've got to change that 13.2% to a decimal. Hence why we worked on changing percents to a decimal. So this is really 0.132 times 430. Then when I put that in my calculator, and see, this time it doesn't show up. That's like I've got the calculator, I've got it split, and you can't see it right now. If I do that full screen, and now let me see if I split the other way. Yep, now you can see it. I have to bring the calculator to full view first. It's interesting. Okay, so I'm going to say 0.132 times 430 is going to give me approximately 56.76 nurses have a master's degree. Okay, well, here's my question for you. You've got to make sure your answer makes sense for your problem. Okay, does it make sense to have 56.76 nurses? No. Since that is more than half a nurse, we're going to go ahead and round up. So we can say 57 nurses out of the 430 have a master's. So I rounded it on up to 57 because I can't have 76 hundredths of a nurse. Okay? Now, more than likely, your homework would allow you to put in 56 also. Usually they'll program it for, there's some wiggle room there because some textbooks would be like, okay, that's not a whole person, so we're not rounding up to 57. We know for sure there's 56. This textbook does list 57 nurses. They went ahead and rounded up. However, I really think on the homework, if you have a problem like this, they'll take either answer. Okay. Now, they won't take the 57.76 or 56.76 of a nurse. They don't want 3/4 of a body sitting there. Okay. Okay. So that's example 3. Let's move on to example 4. We're going to buy a refrigerator. Y'all get excited. A refrigerator has a regular price of $1,149 at Home Depot. And $1,219 at Lowe's. Okay. Home Depot is offering $15% off. But Lowe's offers $200 off if you put the purchase on store credit. Okay? And we ask a couple of questions here. A says, which is the better option? And B says, what is the price of the better option? Okay, and we're just going to say, what is the price? Now, there is a C where we calculate the final price when we add that sales tax on there, but we'll get to that in a minute. A and B go naturally together. So we have to figure out which one's the better option. Now, they do not talk to you here about that fine print on that store credit that you're going to get if you take out that credit card at Lowe's. And we will talk about that in just a little bit. Here's the deal, guys. They will often, Best Buy will do the same thing to you. TJ Maxx will do it to you. Any kind of department store that's wanting to get you to get a credit card, okay? They will often, especially on big items like at Lowe's and Best Buy, they'll tell you, okay, if you qualify for this Best Buy credit card or this Lowe's credit card, you get 0% interest for a year. They're not going to charge you any interest on items you buy for the year. That's all fine and dandy, okay? You get this $1,200 refrigerator, and at the end of the month, it tells you, oh, you only owe $50 this month. You're like, I can do that. I can pay that $50. But here's what they don't tell you, and what it says in the fine print, is if you don't pay that off, if you don't pay off that $1,200 within whatever amount of time they tell you, most times it's 12 months, because that's just long enough for you to forget that whole bill's due and you just been paying $50 auto deduct every month. At the end of that 12 months, if you hadn't paid that off, they go back and charge you about 25% back interest on $1,200. Not the amount that you've paid and now owe on the full $1,200. So that $1,200 refrigerator now winds up costing you like $1,500 to $2,000 because you have all this interest, and now that monthly payment's gone up. And if you don't make even if you are making the monthly payment, now they're charging you about $100 interest every month just in interest. They're tacking onto your bill. That's why if you get a credit card statement, it'll say, okay, if you make the minimum payment, you'll be paying, and you don't put any more on this card, minimum payment, and that's all you pay every month, it's going to take you like 15 years to pay something off, okay? That's how credit card companies get you. And you go into credit card debt, and you max out a credit card, and then you wind up with all these credit cards, and then somebody brings into, oh, well, you can refinance. And that's a whole other, you don't want to go there. Okay, so be careful. My point here is, and it doesn't really have anything to do with the problem, but be careful. Don't get rooked by the, oh, well, just apply for the in-store credit card and you'll only make a $50 payment a month and no interest for a year. Yeah, you just make sure you get however much you put on there paid off within the year, okay? Be careful. Okay, so they don't tell you that in this problem, and we do talk about credit card debt and interest later on in this unit. But for this one, it's just going, hey, which one should you buy from, Home Depot or Lowe's, okay? So at Home Depot, let's do the Lowe's one first. The Lowe's one's the easiest. So over here, I'm going to make a little Lowe's column. Lowe's, the original price equals, $1,219, right? The discount, we go ahead, we sign up for that credit card, in-store credit. The discount they're going to give me is $200. Okay, so my final price is going to be what? Yeah, $1,019 for that refrigerator, okay, at Lowe's. All right, let's talk about Home Depot. Let's see what they have to offer. Okay, Home Depot original price is $11.49, right? And they're going to take off, their discount is going to be 15% of what? The $11.49. Notice I said the discount is going to be 15% of $11.49. Okay? So let's see how much they're going to take off, how much they're discounting that refrigerator. So that means I turn this into 0.15, and I'm going to multiply that times $11.49. So my discount will wind up being I'm going to say 0.15 times $11.49 is $172.35. Guys, is that how much I'm going to pay for the refrigerator?
That's how much off.
That's how much I'm going to take off, okay? So that final price will equal the original price minus the discount, okay? So that means I'm going to say $11.49 minus the $172.35. So my final price here at Home Depot will be $11.49 minus 172.35, $976.65. So who has the better deal?
Home Depot.
Home Depot.
All of
I knew somebody was going to say that. I honestly agree with you.
Always Home Depot.
Jokingly, in our family, we call Lowe's slows because you can't. We've had several. I apologize if your dad or husband or somebody is a manager at Lowe's. I'm sorry. I just have not had good experiences with Lowe's. Home Depot's better. Not that I'm always satisfied with Home Depot, but it's always better than Lowe's for me, just in my personal experience.
They also sell Milwaukee.
So Home Depot does have the better value. And then that answered part B. Also, you actually kind of had to answer part B before you answered part A. So here was our B answer of the final best, oh my gosh, best price is $976.65, and Home Depot is our choice there. C now asks me, C says, if you buy in a store in a county, so if you buy in a store in a county, so we know we're not in Louisiana because Louisiana has parishes, with 7% sales tax, find the total cost including tax. Okay. Now, they specify in a store in a county with 7% sales tax. I don't know if you guys realize that or not, but depending on the county that you live in, the tax rate could be different. Okay. When we lived in Atlanta, Texas, which is about 30 miles south of Texarkana, we experienced this because in Texarkana is a town that sits in two states. It sits in Texas and it sits in Arkansas. You literally, like the school that I worked at was on the Texas side. It was Texas Boulevard that you went down, but if you crossed to the other side of the road, you were in Arkansas. Okay, so depending on how far away you lived from the Arkansas side Walmart, or the Texas side Walmart, depending on where, like how much it was going to cost you to drive there and how much time, because one of them, and I don't remember which one, had a cheaper sales tax. So you would pay less for, and even a tax on like grocery items, you would pay less in, say, the Arkansas Walmart than you would the Texas Walmart. I think Arkansas is cheaper. Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is around there, but I know like once you get up north from there, it gets more expensive.
In Arkansas? Okay, so Arkansas may be more expensive. And it might have been that Texas doesn't tax food, but Arkansas did. And that might have been part of it, like the sales tax on, like if you buy just a normal item, like you're going to buy the calculator, that sales tax was cheaper in Arkansas than it was in Texas, but then Arkansas taxes your food, and Texas wouldn't tax your food. So it all depends on where you live, and it can even change in Texas, in the particular county that you live in. Also, I don't know how they do it in Louisiana. There's parishes in Louisiana which are just counties, but I'm assuming that can change also depending on where you live. Anyway, that's why they talk about in a county with a sales tax of 7%, because it's not standard across the entire United States. Of course, you know that if you live in Hawaii or you live in Alaska, food is much more expensive because they have to import the food to those places. I mean, in Alaska, they got to fly your food in. Like, they're not growing potatoes up in Alaska. I mean, like, I pick something that I would eat. I don't eat carrots. So, like, they can't grow me a potato in Alaska. Hawaii, do they even have, like, cows in Hawaii? Like, do they have to import the milk? Like, do they fly in milk in Hawaii? Do y'all know? Surely they've got a cow. Who's been to Hawaii? Has anybody been to Hawaii? I've not been to Hawaii. Surely there's some cows there. But think about how expensive that would. You could still even like I've heard that gallons, like a long time ago, when a gallon of milk was only like $1 or something. Like in Hawaii, it was like over $5. Of course, now we pay, I think, over $5 for a gallon of milk.
Hey, that's a good business. I should move to Hawaii.
You should move to Hawaii and like have a cow.
Hey, cow.
Hey, cow. Sell some milk off over there. Okay, so let's calculate the sales tax and the the total cost of that refrigerator. Okay, so the total cost is going to equal the cost of the item, right, plus the tax on the item. Now, we know that's not just 7%, okay? So the cost of the item is $976.65. Plus, now we have to calculate how much tax we pay on that $976.65. I'm going to tell you, and I'll give him credit for it. I mean, I've always been good at math. I've always been a math person. That's just how I am. But as far as working like in a store, calculating percentages, like a percent off, like 50% off, things like that, or calculating the amount of tax, I don't do that quickly in my head because I'm like, okay, well, I would change that to 0.07 and then I'm going to multiply it by blah, blah, blah. And my husband, who is about 6 years older than me, he was always like, he could always calculate that sales tax, or he could calculate the percent off very quickly. And I was like, and one day I was just like, how do you do that so fast? Well, number one, he worked retail for quite some time before he became a teacher, but he he was like, look, if you're paying 7% sales tax, you do know that's just you're paying 7 cents for every dollar that item cost you. So if you bought a $100 item, you're paying $7, right? Because 100 times 0.06, you're paying 7 cents for every dollar you spent, okay? So it's easier to think of it like that. Well, that's nearly $1,000, and I'm paying 7%. So about how much am I going to wind up paying in tax? About $70, because that refrigerator costs nearly $1,000. So you're looking at paying $70 because you're paying 7 pennies for every dollar that you're laying down that item. Every dollar that you lay down, you're putting down an extra 7 cents with it until you total up to your $976 over here. Okay. But anyway, mathematically, the way we calculate it, 0.07 times that $976.65. We can go over here to our calculator, and I've finally learned how to do that split like that where it'll show. And I'm going to put in, we've got our $976.65. I can say plus 0.07 times that $976.65 is going to give me $1,045. Is that what y'all got? Y'all are like, yeah, sure, Miss B. Just write it down. That'll be what we got. $1,045.02. We won't get into how they charge you for gas, and they would have counted that half a penny over there. We won't even talk about that. Okay. Full screen. Somebody did ask me in an earlier class, would that then make Lowe's the better price? Well, it wouldn't have anyway. I mean, not Lowe's. Yeah, Lowe's. It wouldn't have, no, it wouldn't have, because that $10.19 is without tax, okay? We would have to calculate the tax on that, and it's still gonna put it over, okay? Example 5. The 2020 Cleveland Browns won 11 games, which was 183% of their 2019 total win. How many did they win in 2019? Now, I have an older gentleman, and I say older because he's probably my age or older. I think he's older than I am, in the Monday, Wednesday class, and he was like, there's no way they won 11 games in 2020. But I'm be honest with you, I don't know whether that's true or not. I'm assuming the Cleveland Browns is it a football team?
Yeah.
It is? Okay. I didn't know. Football like American football, not football soccer. Yeah. It is? Okay. I wasn't sure. He assured me that there was no way they actually won that many games in 2020. So you're saying no, they didn't.
I'm not a big football fan, but like they're not.
Yeah, they're not good. Okay. Izzy's agreeing. She's like, no, they're not. Okay, so we need to know, our question is, what were their 2019 wins? That's the question. Equals blank. We know that their 2020 wins equaled supposedly 11 games, even though that's supposedly wrong. We're going with what the problem says. So we know that we also know that the 2020 wins equals 183% of the 2019 wins, right? That's what it says. 183% of the 2019 wins. So now we just fill in the numbers and we turn it into math stuff. Okay, that's all we got to do. Well, how many wins did they supposedly have in 2020? 11, right? So I've got 11 equals, change that 183% into a decimal. That'll give me 1.83. Of means multiply. 2019 wins, okay? Well, I'm going to pick a letter for that because that's what we're looking for, right? So I'm just going to call it W. So now you have one of those good old algebra equations that you've been solving for a long time. An easy one, not a hard one. Don't get sad. We've got 11 equals 1.83 W. Y'all are going, my advisor told me I didn't have to do any algebra in this class. Well, it's just a little bit. Okay, how am I going to get the W by itself? Good. Divide both sides by 1.83. That's who we want to get rid of. We want the wins alone. So I'll use my calculator and I say 11 divided by 1.83 and I get 6.01 equals W. Okay? All right, we're talking about the number of wins. We can't win 100th of a game. So the 2019 wins is approximately 6. Yeah, and he was kind of like that too. He was like, yeah, he could see that. Maybe in 2019 they might have won 6 games. He was like, but they ain't ever won 11. I'm like, okay. That's your answer. Good job. All right, let's keep trucking. We're nearly done. Oh, you'll like this one better. A sales clerk. She's working on commission. Okay? A sales clerk receives a 9% commission on all sales. Find the total sales the clerk made if the commission was $486. Okay. Do we know how commission works? If you work on commission.
You get a percentage of the sale.
Yes. So we typically see people that work on commission if they sell cars. Car salesmen work on commission. They will make a certain amount every month, but it's real low. It's not much money. Like the only way they really bring home money is if they sell a car. Okay, I don't know what their actual percentage on commission is. A real estate agent makes their living off of commission. Like lots of times, their commission will be 4%, 6%, and we're talking, guys, that's nearly 10%. If you sell a $400,000 house, you're making $40,000 off of that, you personally, approximately. Okay, now it is hard to be a real estate agent, and you don't sell a $400,000 house even once a month. Most of them don't. Some do, but most of them don't. You also have to know how to budget really well if you're a real estate agent, because here's the deal. You sell that $400,000 house, you make $40,000, but you don't know when the next time you're going to sell a house is. So you got to make that $40,000 work for several months to feed people, house people, clothe people that are in your house. Okay, now you might be a great salesman and you wind up selling another one 2 or 3 times that year, so you're banking. But you can't go blowing you $40,000 in one day. Okay? Like give it a few months anyway. Okay? For you guys, y'all are young enough, I would say you might give it more than a few months. Okay. But anyway, example 6, we need to find out how much she really sold. Okay? She or he receives a 9% commission on all sales. Find the total sales the clerk made if the commission was, okay, so the commission earned, here's the deal, guys. Commission earned equals the commission percent of the sale. Okay, so the commission earned is, that tells us $486 even. They tell us the commission percent is 9% of the sales, right? We know of means multiply. So I have 486. I'm going to drop those decimals. Equals 0.09 times the sales. I'm going to call it S. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take off those parentheses too. And y'all just have S. All right, so now in order to find the total amount of the sales, I need to get rid of that 0.09. I'm currently multiplying by 0.09, so I need to divide by 0.09. Okay, so I've got 486 divided by 0.09, and that gives me $5,400 were the original sales. Okay, so whatever they were doing, I know the people that work the floor at AT&T, they work on commission. So this might have been somebody that was working the floor at AT&T and sold a family multiple phones with a big family plan. It can total out to, I mean, y'all know that your iPhone, newest iPhone will come in at what, $1,200, $1,300? You get a couple of those, they're making commission off that, you know. Even if it sets up on, even if the person sets it up on the plan where, you know, you're paying $50 a month, like you're not outright paying, they still are making a commission on that total amount that Verizon or AT&T will wind up getting paid. I'm assuming Verizon works on commission since AT&T does. Okay? Let's talk about the procedure for finding a percent increase or decrease. Okay, first thing that we want to do is find the amount of the increase or decrease. And then once we do that, we're going to set up a fraction where we say the amount of the increase or decrease, whichever it is you're finding, divided by the original amount. And that will tell you the percent that they increase the price or decrease the price. Okay? We're going to skip example 7. We're going to do example 8. So we'll just call it example 7, I guess. And that'll be our last one for the day. A department store offered a 20% discount on all TVs. They also stated that the first 50 customers would receive an additional 10% discount. Find the total percent discount for a TV costing $1,000. Okay, now ladies, you will be familiar with this story. Some of you guys will, maybe. This goes back to the days when you first started going picking out your own little clothes at the store and telling your mama you wanted to buy them. And you would go to a place, they don't have these stores in Austria, I don't think, Papa Vic. You would go to Forever 21 or Rue 21. Y'all remember Rue 21? You would go there and there would be the big rack of clothes, and it would say, take an extra 20% off the already red tag marked items that are 50% off. And you would come up to your mama going, this $10 shirt is only going to be $3 because it's 50% off and another 20% off, so that's 70% off. And it was $10, but I'm going to get it for $3. And she would look at you and go, no, sweetie, that's not how that works. And you would argue with her and go, 20 and 50 makes 70. And you go, and she would go, because you were little and you had your little purse with you because you had some dollar bills then, you hadn't stole her credit card yet. And and you hadn't put her credit card on your Apple Pay on your iPhone yet. So you had your little wallet and your little purse, and you go up there and the little lady would be like, that's $5. And you'd be like, but you had to give them $5 instead of $3 for that little shirt. Okay? Well, that's because that little shirt was originally 50% off the original price, and then the extra 20% they took off that new 50%. They only took 20% of $5 off. They didn't take 20% of the original $10. They took 20% off the new reduced price. Okay? Same thing going on here with the TV, and we're going to prove that it's not really a 30% discount is not what you're getting. Because at first glance, when you ran up to that, then after a while, they finally got where they would, because I'm sure some of y'all argued with the clerk that wasn't how much you were supposed to pay, and she didn't know how they was calculating that percent either. So she wouldn't know what to do. So then somebody, manager-wise, made a sign that went, if your red tag says $4.23 in the new prices, y'all know what I'm talking about. On the spinny rack, there would be the little sign up there that told you how much 20% off your red tag was. Because they got tired of arguing with the little girls about it, I'm sure. I don't know. But anyway, I've had those arguments with my own daughters. And, I look at them and go, you do know I teach math for a living. And they wouldn't care. They'd still tell me I was wrong. Even though the clerk said I was right. Okay. So at first glance, this problem looks like we get a 30% discount. Because it's 20% off, and then it's another, you're one of the first 50, you get a 10% off. But that's not how this is going to work. Let's find the first new price. So the first discounted price will equal, we got $1,000, and we're going to take off 20% of 1,000, right? Because the discount's going to be 20% of 1,000. And so we find the discount, we subtract that from the 1,000. So we got 1,000 minus, well, that's 0.20 times 1,000. Okay? So I've got 1,000 minus 20% of 1,000 is $200. So we're going to wind up taking off $200. That's the discount. And that discounted price is $800. Okay? So for all the people number 51 and later, that TV is going to cost them $800. But you were one of the first 50 people. You were number 48. We're not going to make you 49 or 50. You're number 48. I like that number better. So you were number 48. So you get another 20% off. But you only get 20% off. Not 20%, 10% off. You get an extra 10% off, but it's 10% off the 800, not the 1,000. Okay? So, our second discounted price is going to equal 800 minus 10% of 800. Okay? Well, so that's 800 minus 80. 10% of 800 is 80. So your final price of that TV is going to be $720. Okay? Now, that's not really what the question's asking me. The question's asking me, well, what percent of a discount is that? What percent off was that? So in order to find that, we have to use the amount of increase, the amount of decrease. Okay? So, if the TV was originally 1,000, okay. If the TV was originally a 1,000 minus the discounted price, so I've got 1,000 minus the 720, because that was my discount price. How much did they really take off? $280. Okay. $280 is the discount, the total discount. Now, I need to find out what percent of 1,000 280 is. So I say 280 over 1,000. What's that going to give me? If I put that in the calculator, that's 0.28, which then gives me a 28% discount off the original. So you thought it was 30% because it said 20% and 10%, but then when we really calculated it and they took that last 10% off the 800, not the 1,000, it was a 28% discount, not a 30% discount. All right, guys, test on Tuesday. Remember, you got to be here to take it.